Hi, I'm Lauren MacCready, and this is my open house welcome back to school presentation for Civics Remote e-learning version 2020. So as you can see, I've shared my screen. I just have a quick intro PowerPoint to give you guys, to give you a little heads up about what this class is about, how the students will be graded, a little bit about me, and hopefully answer any questions that you have about what they'll be doing this fall. So this is the same PowerPoint I showed to the kids on the first day as well, and is available on my Canvas page under general course handouts. So who am I? I went to Loyola University Chicago for my undergrad, and I'm currently at Columbia getting my master's in curriculum and instruction. So I'm also currently an e-learning student on the back end, so I can empathize with the students, sympathize with them, and hopefully take that experience to make my e-learning classroom a little bit more friendly and open, knowing how it feels to be on the receiving end. This year I teach 3 A-Push classes, that's AP US History, and 2 Civics classes. So Civics I teach first and second hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and AP US History I teach 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Wednesdays and Fridays. And Mondays, as we all know, are line days, and we meet all classes for 30 minutes. I'm very close to my family, so I end up sharing a lot of personal stories with the kids that I think are funny. My favorite shows are The Office, Game of Thrones, and Friends, which there are a lot of pictures on the PowerPoints that, shamelessly flaunt that. Love to travel, so I love to hear about when kids go places, or just even like local experiences that they recommend. I'd love to hear from them. And then all within the last couple of years, got married, bought a house, bought the little dog in the corner, Riley. So we have a lot going on, and we're very excited about it. So I always start off class with a viewpoint like this for the students. So it always says the date, the learning target for the day, which is what I want them to be able to accomplish, or they feel they've accomplished at the end of the period. And the agenda is more of an itemized to-do list. So this was what we had done the very first day of school. So this is a very nice pinpoint in the presentation for each unit for students to go back and see what they missed. There is also a calendar for the unit that is available on the very front homepage of our Canvas course page. So what is Civics? I had students brainstorm in small groups what they even thought this class was about. Maybe they heard things from their friends who've taken it before. Basically, I just got government. That was kind of the only word I got, which is pretty much what I expected. And so what we want them to get out of this class is first to learn how to be an effective citizen, figure out who they would vote for and why. I know they're not a voting age, but we want them to see like how they feel about current issues. Actually, this week in class, they did multiple political personality quizzes, for lack of a better word, to see where they are on the political spectrum. They learned what that meant, and had a discussion about, where those values could have come from. Was it, social groups, family, education, kind of a mixture of all of them, and just seeing how, the political spectrum are just 2 different viewpoints of seeing, the country differently, and how to go about fixing the country and making it better, just 2 different perspectives. I think they really enjoyed that conversation. So I want them to get a sense of what they personally believe, and what others believe, and how to interact with them, and then apply that into the real world. So whether it's voting or having a civil discussion, as I have later on here, having a civil discussion about difficult topics. The climate of the US is getting very emotional when it comes to politics. So we want students to be able to learn these skills now of active listening, respectful discourse, to be able to carry that forward, later in life. So what we do this semester, it's going to look a little different e-learning wise. We do a lot of discussions in normal class as well. Usually it's a lot of current events discussions. I might pose a question to the class, a very generalized question about what are some policies, because they learned what a policy was the first week. What are some policies or things that the government has tried to do to solve any issues this week? And so they might have to bring in an article from class, and that could be a wide variety of issues and topics. And so it's really based on them and what they want to discuss. And I'm just there to help facilitate and remind them about using the active listening skills, remind them to use evidence when they're making an argument, stuff like that. It's more skill prompting, but they are leading the discussion. We do legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch simulations. We're still trying to figure out how to do that e-learning style, but they're my favorite part, and it tends to be students' favorite part of the class. We want to, keep those simulations as live as possible, so they can still do their mock elections, their mock jury, their mock law creation. I think students really enjoy that. News literacy, so we want them to be able to know how to find credible news sources, how to digest them, and articulate their arguments, how to evaluate them, assess them for bias, things of that nature, and spot fake news. Service learning, that might also pose, a difficulty in the COVID world about sending them out into the community to get involved into like a local action, to solve a local problem. But we will see, as the semester progresses, what we can and can't do, just given the current situation. So the biggest question is, how will they be graded? Because I know LT changed its grading policy this year, and so that tends to be a big question on everyone's minds. So daily assignments will consist of, short readings with questions, watching videos, other small assignments. I rarely have things outside of classroom. It's all in-class based. So that even in our normal school year, before e-learning, there wouldn't have been any homework really. But I have emphasized that is a requirement, in a sense that in order to keep up with the class and know what we're doing the next day and be able to participate, even though a lot of this stuff is ungraded, because now homework does not count towards the final grade, that it is imperative for you to, have that learning process still in order to do well on the test at the end. So how we do this is our class is broken up into 4 core skills, which you can see on my screen: identify and apply, evaluating sources, questioning and discussion techniques, claim evidence analysis skill, which is building an argument using sources. So these skills really do build upon each other. So they get more simple, more complex as they go. And so each of these skills are addressed in each unit, no matter what it is, whether it's the intro to government, judicial, legislative, or executive branch units. Those are our 4 units. They are all evaluated in some fashion in each. And so in each unit, we have formatives, which is a fancy way of saying ungraded practice, that'll be done to assess each skill throughout the unit. And then each skill will have a summative, a corresponding summative, which means that is the final test, that is the summative evaluation to see how they're doing on these skills. So for instance, for the formatives right now for Unit 1, they all had to create a Google slide selecting their top 5 issues that they care about in terms of like political issues. They picked animal rights or immigration or gun rights legislation, whatever it is, and then state their generic viewpoint on it. And then they had to do a little write-up for me to say, based on these 5 issues and what I believe on them, I believe I fall in more of a liberal category, more conservative category. And so it's an ungraded practice for me to see where they're at, versus like a summative part of a test. I might give them a fake person to analyze and their viewpoints, and then they have to identify if they're more liberal or conservative and explain why. So that's kind of a corresponding formative and summative assessment. But the summatives are the only things that will be taken for a grade in this class. And how they're all recorded in the grade book, but how you can denote which one is which. Formatives are marked by an asterisk. They have an F, so it should say like Unit 1, F1, which means the formative for the first skill, which is identify and apply. I know it can get a little tricky, but once you kind of see it in the grade book, it'll make a lot more sense. But there are 32 total items that should be in the grade book as of right now. And then the summatives are very similar, but they do not have an asterisk because they do go towards the final grade, and they have Unit 1, S1 for summative skill 1. The rules of the room for the students that I laid out on the very first day was to, be kind, work hard, be respectful, and just be patient with me and all the other teachers. We're having a lot of, a steep learning curve with the technology, and so I just appreciate their patience as we learn with them. As I said, I have a calendar on my homepage which students can reference, and you're free to reference at any time. If you would like to be kind of in ghost mode on Canvas, so you can be a parental figure and have similar access to the students as all, the handouts and stuff go on Canvas, please reach out to me. I can certainly do that. All materials are organized under modules. As I showed, we have a daily learning target and agenda screen that I show when they come in. Sometimes I'll use the announcements function on Canvas to communicate with them. especially when it's a broad announcement for everyone rather than just email. I do provide 1 to 2 breaks, like 3 to 5 minutes each per class, just because 75 minutes is a very long time. Now we are keeping attendance on Infinite Campus, and so they do not have to check in the morning, but I will follow up with parents if I feel that students are consistently, arriving late or are not signed into Zoom. We had general Zoom norms that we came up with as a class about, being respectful, being in a quiet place, using earphones if you need to, using the chat feature, respectfully and things of that nature. And they were able to provide a lot of great suggestions on how to hold each other accountable. So I was really impressed. And the last one was, please encourage them to reach out to me if they ever feel like they're falling behind or have questions, especially with e-learning. I feel like they might be a little bit more hesitant to reach out when they are struggling. So please encourage them, whether it's staying after on Zoom, emailing me. I can always do one-on-one Zooms with students. I've had several already in the first 2 weeks across all my classes. And so it's not just them, it's not unusual. And I want to make them feel as comfortable as possible to reach out to me. And the last thing I had was a general, encouragement to them to stay informed. And that could be something that parents help out with. If you're watching the news or listening to on the radio or wherever you get your news from, share that information with your students and ask them, what's their opinion on it. The goal of this class is not to, enforce our opinion, but more so provide an opportunity for them to learn from all different perspectives. And then they can take that and assess it and evaluate it and kind of turn it into their own perspective, as long as they're getting, a well-rounded viewpoint with facts and evidence. That's all we want. So I also challenge you guys to, help your students get more involved in just the political climate as it is right now. So I'm not going to have you guys do icebreakers like I had with my students do on the very first day, but I did learn a lot about them really, really fast. But I do encourage you to reach out to me if you guys have any questions or concerns about the class or your students' progress. I'm available via email. I can also do one-on-one Zoom calls at any point. I have just the VP time before school, after school, and I'm off periods 3, 4, and 5. And so I'm always available, mostly in the mornings, those huge chunk of times when kids are in class that I'm just grading and working. So I look forward to, meeting you all eventually or hearing from you. And I have, great hope for this semester that it's going to be just as fun as, regular in-school learning. So have a great day.